Hey everybody, welcome back for the second episode of the podcast series that we're doing in partnership with the UMKC Bloch School of Management with Social Apex, now presented by Startland News. We're here in the Regnier Innovators Hub, and I'm here with Riley. And we're going to talk about her business and the things that she's doing here at the UMKC Bloch School. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, and the things that you're building. You had some wins recently. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, definitely.
Oh yeah, get it? Here we go.
We're dropping gum.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, so my name's Riley Rhoads. I'm a senior this year at UMKC at the Bloch School of Management. And I'm also a mom to an almost 2-year-old. She'll be 2 next month. So I'm very busy. I stay very busy, obviously. But my journey started probably about a year and a half ago with entrepreneurship. I mean, I have a long family history of entrepreneurship, so it's definitely been on my mind. And yeah, going, I'm all gone. Yeah, it's all gone. That's okay. So when I started school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but But I knew I would want to own my own business. That's kind of what I had in mind. I knew more about what I didn't want to go to school for, which would be like medical. I didn't want to be a surgeon, that kind of thing. And so I chose business, and excuse you. And I got accepted here. And now I'm just on this journey. And then once I had my daughter, my sophomore year of college, things definitely changed for sure. And then she kind of sparked the idea for what I'm working on now, which is a brand that really supports parents by simplifying the baby clothing experience, reducing that mental load for busy moms like myself, and giving them more time to hold their baby and build secure attachments.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, you won one of the competitions here recently. It was a side venture challenge, right?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how that went. Talk to me about just the process for getting ready and winning. Like, how did that feel?
Yeah, so I won 2 of them, so do we want to start?
Yeah, whichever, but talk about both.
Yeah, so the side hustle challenge here at school, getting ready for that. So that's like a video pitch competition. And so getting ready for that, I was kind of nervous just because that would be kind of my first entry into any kind of pitch competition, if that makes sense. And so I was really nervous, and I was like working really hard on kind of figuring out what I wanted my brand to be. And that was kind of the first time that I put everything together, kind of like not on paper, but just like put it all into one kind of material, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I made that video. It was like a 2-minute video, and I asked around friends. I showed it to family and friends, and they were like, yeah, it's so cute. And I even had my daughter say, hold tight baby at the end, which I think that kind of helped me at the competition. But yeah, I guess the probably most challenging part of that pitch competition was getting it down to 2 minutes. Like, I really had to be like, okay, what's most important and what do people actually care about, like, involved in this business, right? Because somebody's not going to buy something for the 7th reason the product's great, right? They're going to buy it for 1, 2, and maybe 3. So I really had to cut my, script down. I was like, okay, well, yeah, that's great about the product, but, that's kind of a intuitive thing. Like, that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it's definitely one of those things where when you can start long-winded always, but then bringing it down is not only good for other people.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost, you could say like it's almost about how you can explain it simply, right? Like, they always say, like, how would you explain it to a child? But even beyond that, we're all just grown children, right? So it's like you want to give people the essence of your business quickly, not because, people don't want to hear about it, but more so because you want them to understand the inherent value pretty quickly.
Yes.
And so that exercise of that 2-minute video, one, is a great opportunity to, win an actual competition, but also to learn how to really bring it down and build that elevator pitch.
Yes.
So talk to me about when you first started the business, or you first came up with this idea, did it come as an idea that you were like, oh, I'm going to start this as a business, and it immediately manifested into that kind of idea? Or were you more like, ooh, I really kind of think I need this product, and I'm like seeing that there's a lack in this product. How could I find it? How did the idea actually come about to create the business itself?
Yeah. So it definitely started as just an idea to kind of fix my own frustrations as a mom. And it really started when she was about maybe 6 to 8 months old. She started crawling. And she has, it's the middle of winter. You got to put socks on your kids' feet. And so I just was really annoyed. Like, there's this one story. I was in TJ Maxx, and one of her socks had fallen off, and I'm just shopping like normal, and they can't walk yet, so you're not putting like shoes on them necessarily. And so we're in TJ Maxx, I'm just shopping, and then this employee from TJ Maxx comes, and she's like trying to match this missing sock to the missing baby. And of course it's my kid. So I'm just like, oh, like, what? Oh, yeah, Cap. There you go, baby. And so I'm like, oh, like, that's so embarrassing, I'm like, it's so annoying. And so it started with that, and then by the time, you're going to the store, you're trying to go out with your kid, that's stressful enough as a mom. And, you got to make sure you have everything and everything that comes with going out of the house. Every parent will understand this, but there's just a lot going on. And then for this extra thing to happen, like a sock falling off, it's like, it could just be your last straw for the day, right? And, for me, it was, okay, it fell off in the store or whatever, and then we get in the car, it falls off again, or we get home and it falls off again, or she's pulling them off every 5 minutes. Like, it's so annoying.
Yeah.
And I said, there just has to be a better way. Like, I'm done. And so it started with the sock problem. Now, going through that, I was like, all right, well, if I can fix this problem for myself, great, I'll do that. And so I got out my grandma's like 1950s sewing machine, and I was like, oh, I know a little bit about this. Let me see if I can just make something. And, the wheels just started turning, and I was like, all right, let's make a pair of pants, with some kind of like tightening mechanism at the ankle, right? And so that's what I did. And it just kind of built and built and built. And the problem is not so much, like, I had to really dig deep emotionally to figure out, okay, what is the actual problem that I was like having? I don't think it was necessarily the socks that was the problem. It's just the entire mental load that led to the socks being the last straw, right? And so that's what I really came to find. And upon interviewing other moms, it became known that I was like, oh, wow, like, okay, it's not just me that has like this problem, if that makes sense. I was like, oh, okay, I could actually help these moms, right? I always say, like, if I can help at least myself, all right, cool. Now, if I can help one other mom, cool. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. So
you started out with, the sock problem, then you went to the side hustle challenge. Now where's the product at? Where are you currently at in its iterative stage?
Yeah. So before the pitch competition, or before the side hustle competition, I did my interviews and then kind of solidified that problem. And then I have made the product better based on what I heard in the interviews from moms, like, what would you want in baby clothing, right? And so they told me that they wanted, and I kind of have made the product a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner. And so now we are trying to, I have Kira helping me now with marketing and going into the next semester. And so right now we are trying to get a couple pants made that are clean, that are nice, have all the tags, everything. And then building our website and trying to get those up and get it out to people. And then kind of behind the scenes of that, we're trying to work on a focus group of moms. So Kira works for a daycare. She's worked there for like 5 years. So trying to get at least a couple steps away from just me personally, or my friends, if that makes sense. And trying to do a focus group so I can, ask these moms, how does this product work long term, right? I want you to use this product, give me feedback once a month for like 3 months, and like, how's it holding up, right? Because I want this product to be something that is, for moms, right? And if I don't let moms use it and make sure that moms like it, then, why would I sell it, right? And so, of course, I'm trying to just start the business, get it out there, see if people buy it. But I'm also trying to really make sure that it's quality and get it up to the standard, right? And so improve on it.
Yeah, and then do you have a long-term kind of plan? Like where's your head at? Are you really just kind of trying to make sure that the product's in a good space to just move it forward? Do you have eyes set on like, hey, I want to be in Baby Gap or whatever? Like what's kind of your longer term strategy?
Yeah, so like right now in my head, I'm like, okay, longer term strategy is like, I don't necessarily want to be in big box like Target or Walmart, right? I kind of want to be more in like small boutique, that kind of thing. And then of course just online, direct to consumer. That's kind of really where I want to be. I feel like if I go big box, one, that kind of scares me right now, and that might change in the future, but I'm like, I don't really want to go that direction, but I could possibly, but I feel like that would kind of like not like bring the quality down, but just kind of, I feel like it would bring kind of the sense of the brand down, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It would definitely have to be like a big box brand that like aligns with, my mission and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And then what's kind of some of the challenges maybe that you're going through currently that you could speak on, like kind of stepping away specifically from the minutia of the business and, in terms of like sewing your but like more so the mental side, like what are some of those barriers maybe that you're running up against where, because a lot of people will say that are entrepreneurs, there's days where you're like, oh, I'm ready to just, give it all up and I'm ready to be a doctor now. Like that seems easier. But talk to me a little bit about some of those moments where you're like, and what got you through those moments, right? Is it support system? Is it more mental clarity? Is it, your daughter? Talk to me a little bit about those moments.
Yeah, for sure. No, like that definitely happened to me over break. I was like, okay, I went through last semester in e-scholars and like I was grinding. I got a lot done, I feel like, and I think that showed in the competitions that I won. And I won 2 competitions. And then I was like, after demo day, I was like, okay, cool, I could take a breath. And then I was like, wait, I got to kind of like step back and like see what I had worked on and like, was that all worth it? Your mind goes and goes and goes. And then I think I ended up getting like a cold. Like it was kind of a bad cold. And I just really was laying in bed and I was like, oh, like, I need to get up and do this or I need to get up and do that and all these things and all the steps, your mind just races and I'm sure, everyone can speak for that. And so I was like, no, like Riley, you're not feeling good. Like it's okay to take a break. Like, it's winter break. Just take a week off. It's fine. Enjoy family, Christmas, whatever. So I did that and I didn't really work on anything. And then after I started feeling better, I was like, okay, let's get some stuff done. Let's work on stuff. But then it's like, okay, well, what is there to work on, right? And so then you have to think about all these different things that you could be working on. But one thing that helped me was just reminding myself, like, just take it one step at a time. Like, that's really all you can do. And, like, that's what's got me through it, right? Because, like, I can think about, oh, my gosh, I need to get my website built tonight, right? And you're like, that's just not going to happen, right? And you could sit there and tell yourself over and over and over that you need to do this tonight, and it's just not going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. But the flip side of that is, oh, okay, well, you could tell yourself, okay, let me just put a picture up on the website.
Yep.
let me figure out how to do that. And so that's what I did. And then if you can do more than that, great. If you can't, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Baby steps, right?
yes, no, for sure. It's definitely baby steps. And like one great analogy that I like is like, how do you eat an elephant?
Yep.
One bite at a time. And it's just so true. And it's happened to me so many times.
Yeah.
Like every day I'm like, all right, if I can just get one little thing done, like I'll make it be right. And then usually what happens is you keep going, right? And you're like, oh, okay, well, I could just do this. Or, oh, okay, I could do that then.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Are you, have you read The One Thing? You read that book? Definitely would recommend it. It's a great book. I can't remember the author's name, but it's called The One Thing. And basically the thesis of it is that, you know, it boils everything down into like, you have this one thing you're working on, you have this one idea, this one business, this one brand, and as long as you can do one single thing every day that advances your goal towards that mission, that's all you have to do. And because we always get distracted, and by, you know, what you said is like, oh, I want to get the website up today, what you end up doing is you end up actually doing things that don't help move the mission forward. So you're like, I don't have a website, but I need to start marketing today. And you're like, you start getting influencers involved, and you're like, wait, I don't have distribution. So what am I, right? So instead of doing that, it's a great lesson that you mentioned, which is like, you have to start it at basic principles first of like, I don't have a website yet. I need to make it. What goes on a site? Copy, images. I need to get
Learning
the
to even use the website.
right. What tools are there? I mean, yeah, because you're going to be selling, right? So Shopify, database management, you know, newsletter, email, and it's like you're just going to get overwhelmed. But you're like, it's all got to be compartmentalized because you'll go a little cuckoo trying to do it all at once. So I think what's interesting is you're a senior now. So tell me about your plans after you get out of school. What's going to be kind of your main? Are you graduating in May? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what's kind of your thoughts going out into the real world?
Yeah, I mean, not much. Like, I really am just trying to like see what happens with this business, and after that, you know, I'll have my degree, and if I really need to go find a job, I guess I will. I really don't want to. But other than that, you know, I'm still staying at home and just watching her. So that's what I figured I'll do.
Yeah, well, I think some at least practical anecdote I can give you is when I was here, and feels like 100 years ago, but also yesterday was 2018 when I graduated, and I started our marketing agency, which you started way sooner or way earlier than I had started my agency. I started my agency in March, and I graduated in May. And I found my business partner in April, and we had no clients. We had nothing. I had no experience with cameras. I had no experience with anything. And I was coming up against that wall too, where you're like, oh shoot, I'm coming out into the real world. Like, I need to this needs to make money. I need to make it real. But, you know, one big thing that I would give you is like, even if you, like for me, I came out and I worked a part-time job, and I made it really practical, like you said about the one thing. So what I did was I worked a part-time job, and I said, I just need to make $500 a month on my business to start. And then you do that, and the next month you make 1,000, and the next month you make 1,500, and you slowly eat the elephant by increasing your revenues and profits so that you can move out of the business. But by doing that, you don't feel this guilt of, I've given up, so I'm working at some corporate job that I don't like. No, you need to have some foundation to give you some stability and some funding to take credit for real stuff, real world things, right? But you do it, you know, you give yourself some grace, and you're like, it's not going to happen in one day. And so that's a really important piece of advice I would give is like, even if you worked as a, you know, barista, or like go into work in a plant store or something, just to pay some bills, and you're like, okay, by next quarter, I'm gonna make $500 a month. By next quarter, it's $1,500. And then what happened for me was within 6 months, I was part-time, like half and half, and then 6 months later, I was full-time. And I had no clue who I was gonna bring on as a client. I had no idea what I was doing. And I just found the right partners, and we worked and worked and worked, and then it clicks. But by giving yourself that grace to say, I still need to pay for some things, and let me just get a job that I don't like, maybe, but I need it. but then I know what I'm actually going after.
Yeah.
Because not only does it humble you a little bit, because we're like, hey, you got to do some hard stuff that you don't want to do sometimes, but it gives you that stability to say, okay, this doesn't have to work right away.
Yeah.
It just needs to work a little bit, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, then a little bit more, right? So that's the thing that, like, I wouldn't have started the business if I didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
Like, it literally wouldn't have happened because I would have just failed right away. Well, if I need
That's good advice.
I did $5,000 this month and I just graduated. It's like, no, it didn't happen. Like, I didn't start making any good money until, like a year and a half to 2 years later, right?
Yep.
So that would
And then, like, you're putting everything back in the business, too.
Yeah, you're putting a lot back in the business, and like when you make revenue in the beginning of your business too much of a priority, what happens is you strip the business of its like important components because you start thinking about the wrong metrics initially, right? Because 2, 3, 4 years in, you're gonna need to start thinking about revenues, but when you first start the company, you need to build a great product. Right? It's like that has to be the forefront. And if you come out and you're like, I have to make money now, then you can end up kind of, messing with the internal elements of the product to a point where it's not what you want it to be anymore.
Yeah. I feel like that's, like, a good point, like, too. But I've also heard just, like, any, like, entrepreneurs, like, if I hear people talk about, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur because, I want to start a business and own my own business and make a bunch of money. Like, it gives me the ick when people say that. I'm like, please stop. Like, you need to find out, like, what you're passionate about and really start it with that. And for me, like, entrepreneurship doesn't start with just wanting to make money. Like, I believe that if you start with a passion and you believe that you want to help people, then, the money will always come later. And so I just have that belief system. And so I really try to focus on that and remember that, what I'm doing today, like, I'm trying to make it about more about the people rather than the money, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, like, put that in the side of my brain. I'm like, you know what? Not to get religious, but God has a plan for me, and, like, I'm gonna be okay. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be taken care of. It's gonna be fine. But yeah, that's just what I believe. So I'm not too worried about making money, but it's good advice that, like, it's definitely, like, gonna be easy to, like, get knocked down about, oh my gosh, like, my business is not making
I'm not making
profit.
I mean, just being really practical about those things, like saying, you come out and being like, like really just intentful with like your budget, right? And you're like, okay, I could live on X amount of money a month. So that's what my boring job's going to pay, whatever that number is. And you're like, that's just to pay the bills, right? And then you start working at that problem. But I think, what's really important that you said about helping people, if I, as an entrepreneur myself, and how I would twist that to like take it from, because that's the right way to think about it. But then if you actually apply that theory and how it makes sense in a capital market, you live in America, one of the few places you can build entrepreneurial ventures. Yeah. And the reason that it works here is because we have free markets. And what free markets allow you to do is to create value for society, and people pay for value. So when you're thinking of people, you're creating a product that helps them. So when you try and think of how do I make money, you stray from creating value and you stray towards grift. You stray towards these things that have nothing to do with actually creating value, because in the free market world, when you create value, there's disruption and there's actual capital developed, right? So it's like, once the phone was made or the internet was made, right? They weren't making the internet like, oh, this is like so much money. We got these computers to talk to each other. It's like, no, they just were some nerds in a lab, right? And so you had a problem, you fixed it, you see the potential in it. And so make sure that, as you're growing your business, you're staying true to that ethos, but then also recognizing like that's also the business practice too, which is like creating inherent value is the only way it's ever going to be successful. So thinking people first is the way any app is successful, any business is successful. And you see any corporation start to fall on its knees, it's always because profit comes first. And it's a slow death for a lot of these big companies, but it happens, right? So I think, just to kind of close everything out, what's some tips you would give, I think would be really important to maybe give advice to other mothers that are maybe trying to, maybe not even baby related businesses, but trying to make it work as an entrepreneur or trying to do their own job or whatever it might be, what would be some advice you would give that you've learned over the last 2 years with Sailor while you've been building your business? What advice would you give to them just from your experience over the last few years?
Yeah, you definitely cannot do it alone, for sure. And so I would say a big thing was just to take action. It's all about taking action, but I think a very important action for me was, getting involved with the school. And, if, you're a little bit older, obviously, just getting involved in your community and seeing what kind of, help there is, if that makes sense, for people starting small businesses. And yeah, you just cannot do it alone. I would say that would be like the number one thing, because if I hadn't saw the e-scholars application, and I was scared, right? I was like, I didn't, I had doubts in myself, so I was like, oh no, they wouldn't want me, but whatever, blah, blah. But I was like, no, it's fine. I'm gonna put this application in, and I did, and I got accepted. And if I hadn't have done that, if I had to take that step, then I wouldn't be here today.
Yes, that's why it goes back to what you said. You have to be excited about what you're building. It has to be connected to your truth, because then you go and you share your story with people, and you just that's how everything started for me. Is I just like telling stories and connecting to people, and you're like, oh, let me nerd out on stories. Let's talk about videos and movies and whatever. And then this person introduces you to this person and this person. And so that natural curiosity and the love for what you do, right? And that's why I think it's so awesome what you're doing with this business, because it's connected to something that you actually really love, which is daughter, right? So it's easy to talk about.
Yeah.
And so it's such great advice to think about, how do you connect back to your why? And how do you use that as your compass, right? And how do you use that as your guiding tool? And a big thing is it always will lead you to other people, because you can't, entrepreneur, there's no business that was started by one person.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So, well, thank you so much for talking today. I'm super excited to share this with everybody. And I think, what you've been able to accomplish just in the last year is awesome. And I wish you a lot of luck as you graduate and go into the real world.
I know, right?
Awesome.
I'll still hang around, though.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm 10 years later almost, I'm still here. Okay, you want to say bye?
Can you say bye?
Here, you got to wave. They can see you. Just say bye. You could wave.
It's
Are you mesmerized?
it's a cute.
If you wave, you can have more gummies.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, mommy. You heard her. Mommy. Thank you, everyone, for checking out this podcast episode, and we'll see you next time.